The Warcraft RTSs have made an undeniable impact on the gaming industry as a whole, not only with their fast and addictive gameplay, but just plain fun. Recently I decided that I will log in and play some Warcraft 3 again, and wow, I forgot how intense this game could be. Between the heroes, the different maps, the micro and macro play, grab a cup and listen in why Warcraft 3 is insane in 2023. So this is an RTS that I have played thoroughly. I remember starting 1v4s before school, saving them and playing them later that evening when I got home. It is incredible how much time I spent actually just looking at this screen right here. The different races really added the uniqueness I think an RTS needs. Now each race plays massively different when compared to one another, and this really makes you feel like you are a human fighting the evil undead forces, or a night elf that's keeping the forest safe. The races in my mind are one of the game's best features. So with that in mind, I decide to kick open a 4-person free-for-all against a computer, rolling random race and random hero. I get the human. I still have the muscle memory to build an altar, farm, and barracks fairly quickly. This is like riding a bike. And because I selected random hero, I was given an Archmage right out the gate. This is kind of interesting because, yeah, typically I like to go like the Mountain King or the Paladin, but honestly this is a pretty cool feature that I did not remember, but random hero, random race is a pretty good way to keep it interesting. Lets you play kind of like against adversity because you might get something that you're not familiar with or you're not as experienced. I quickly realized that this whole map is nothing but forest blocking pathing. Okay, so you know what we have to do, right?
Dramatic pause!
That is correct, a full air unit cheese. Max Griffin, Dragonhawk Riders, and a few gyros just for the extra insult. I forgot how stupidly fun cheesing matches could be, honestly. It was great. Well, nevertheless, I attack right all the way across the map, and the only other computer that gave me any type of stress was actually the human AI who was making some progress, but even then, they were no match to a nearly maxed out Griffin and Dragonhawk team. That was too easy. I want a challenge. Okay, how about a 1v1 against an insane computer? No problem, right? I rushed teching and mass a decent force fairly quickly, or at least what I thought was pretty quickly. It turns out in the same time that it took me to get 5 or 6 footmen and a couple of riflemen, the insane AI actually was able to field knights and griffins at like 5 minutes. This is brutal just because my Archmage and Blood Mage combo stood like no chance. I quickly lost and this put me back into my place, brought down that ego, but I think I really needed that because I wanted to get kind of into the flow of things and get a better feeling of how the matches can go good or bad. So this was in my opinion something I needed because I was going to the very best part of what Warcraft 3 has to offer, and that of course is PvP. I spent so many times, so many matches, so many individual cases that I was playing against other players in 1v1s. I loved having the Blade Master with the trolls with a max upgrade and then demolishers for the orcs, or even the human siege tank cheese. It's good memories, it really is. This game has given me so many positive memories across the years, even if my strategies were complete crap and I lost a lot, which yes, that did happen. I wanted to press forward, I wanted to play more. So jumping into my first match, my focus was as a human to have a strong siege, knight, and a few casters to balance out a decent push. Thus far the match was fairly quiet, only seeing the enemy a few times and trading blows with a couple of units. The more important thing that I was pushing was the enemy away from their secondary base. Their main gold mine was running low, and they were fairly low in units after a few failed attempts of attacks. With some strategic uses of my Mountain King and of course the beautiful sorceresses slowing the enemy knights down, we were able to push them off with only a minimal loss. I do lose my Mountain King in the process because I thought that I used the Scroll of Town portal, but I guess it didn't go off. Anyway, I maintain most of my units, and this is looking good. The enemy quickly pushes back into my base, trying to capitalize on the advantage, but Luckily for me, the Sorceress really came in clutch using their slow ability. He counters with some Dragonhawk riders that proved to be challenging, but my Mountain King has a Fire Orb and he's back ready to give the beatdown. A Siege Engine spawns and now the enemy is running. On top of that, I'm able to establish a base to get my gold flowing again. I get a good slow on the enemy Archmage and then follow up with a maxed out Thunderclap from my Mountain King, and down goes the mage. After the enemy tries another failed attempt, my Mountain King pushes easily into them with no issue. I also took this time to sneak my siege engine around the enemy forces and start working on their main base while their army was away. And then they come back and try to push the engine off, but I get their Mountain King and they resign. My first PvP match in Warcraft 3 in over like 6 years, and I get a win. This is such a good feeling. This is short-lived though, as I get trounced in literally my next 5 matches by what appears to be either significantly better opponents or I just had really good luck in the first one. Anyway, I had a couple of close matches and ones that brought me back to my roots. Like specifically like this one here where I was using the Blade Master and Troll combo along with my double demolishers. I got walled out after a few successful attacks from the enemy. I did have one match where I pushed heavily into the enemy base and was nearly capable of finishing them off, but my trade was that I did nothing to tech instead of just going for units instead. After throwing multiple units against the wall and not teching, the enemy recovered, spawned a significant more amount of units than I could counter, and I conceded. It was heartbreaking as I had the advantage and then I lost it. So I think my problem here is that I wasn't teching up the way that I needed to be honest. I tend to also only go with a solo hero focus, and only having a Mountain King that could have been balanced out with another hero probably would have done better, such as like a Paladin or an Archmage. I will have to say that despite getting rocked, I still had a good time with this match, and I still wanted to play more. I decided to revisit the campaign, as I was a bit interested to see if any of the facelifted graphics from Reforged made it play any better. The gameplay is, well, the same. Nothing really too fancy here. Although the story of Warcraft 3 is an epic one, and it's definitely one that I recommend if you have never tried it. Our boy Arthas is looking all fine and Dan here, not gonna lie. Shame he's an asshole. Warcraft 3 also does have a handful of custom matches where players can create unique maps and functions within those maps, and specific game modes and more. But by the way, I do want to also point this out, that this is the birthplace of Dota, which also helped spawn League of Legends. Fun fact. And after putting in about 10 hours, I think I have a good handle of how Warcraft 3 plays nowadays. So why is this all important? Well, Warcraft 3 did something that no other RTS had done before. At the time, the biggest thing was having 3D polished characters on top of intriguing gameplay, but more importantly, a campaign that told you to do more than just destroy the enemy. Just about every single story had extra objectives that rewarded you for exploring the map and seeing everything there was to be offered. Not saying that later RTS games didn't follow suit, such as like Age of Mythology, but Warcraft 3 did it first, and it was incredible to see it for the first time. This also fleshed out one of the oldest and longest running competitive RTS games out there, right up there with, of course, Age of Empires and StarCraft, to name a few. This game paved the way for not only further advancements in the RTS genre, but assisted in creating World of Warcraft, which, if you didn't know, is possibly one of the most famous or maybe infamous MMORPGs in gaming history, as well as mentioned, the birthplace of Dota, which is Defense of the Ancients, and then, of course, League of Legends. All coming from this one game. That all started right here. Now, to be sure, Reforged looked, well, alright, I suppose. It kind of looked like a mobile game graphics, but that's just kind of my opinion. Reforged did more to bring life back to this fantastic game and a thriving community that wants to play it nearly still 20 years later. I find myself playing against enemies, and each match I want to try again and do better, find a better strategy and win. Very few games in my mind do this that well, and in a competitive sense, this game is an absolute blast. The different races provide great, unique gameplay, as well as fielding a ton of powerful hero units that literally can decide a match is victory or defeat. Not to mention the tavern heroes that allow you even more customized gameplay. Try playing as the undead and have a Dark Ranger hero. It's pretty damn fun. There, of course, is a certain level of strategy with every match that you play against human or AI, but that is what Warcraft 3 does great. Every match is different. Every setup is going to be unique, and that type of replayability is not something that can be found often or overlooked. The combat still feels strategic, the games still move fast, every decision feels meaningful, and I promise you that there is still no game quite like Warcraft 3, at least in my mind. Not only did it completely change the face of gaming for the world, but more importantly for me, it opened me up to a brand new scene that has become one of my most positive and fondest gaming memories that I can think of, and opened of course an even bigger gateway for me to enjoy the wonderful world of gaming that followed. So, of course, cheers to that. I recently have also jumped into another 20-year-old RTS, Age of Mythology, in 2023, and here's what it's like. As always, stay caffeinated, folks.